Hey guys, I wanted to wait on making this video because I wanted to see what people were saying. Some have already made several videos about Israel Adesanya and what appears to be what most people are calling gynecomastia on the right side of his chest. A lot of people believe that that's the case. Greg Doucette made a video, More Plates made a video. Some others, some doctors, quote unquote doctors, made a video on his outstanding breast tissue growth. And I'm here to basically, give you the rundown on what is happening with Israel Adesanya from my point of view. And it's really kind of undeniable, but let's just go ahead and run through it. So one thing is that it's, like I said, it's undeniable. So there's, looking at him, there's no way that you can miss the fact that he has gynecomastia. I mean, it's obvious. It's so obvious. So think about this. Think about how many bodybuilding competitions go during a year. Think about how long bodybuilding has been around. And I'm not extremely, old. I'm 35 years old. I've seen a lot of bodybuilding competitions. There's people that are older than me that I've seen a lot more and on a higher level and everything like that. And out of all those people, out of all that steroid, I have never seen gynecomastia this bad. I mean, it is bad. I mean, if you've seen his right pec, it's horrible. It looks terrible. Now, what could contribute to that? Well, you know that UFC fighters and a lot of athletes get drug tested by USADA. So this will go on into another point, but the compound or the drug that he is using is obviously causing him to have gynecomastia, which is understandable. That does happen. It happens in the bodybuilding world. It happens in athletes all over, all over the scene. Obviously, most athletes are wearing shirts, so you won't even notice it. In combat sports, they're usually shirtless, so it's hard to hide, right? So, which is what he had an issue with. He couldn't hide it. And the things that you would need to take, like letrozole or some kind of anti-aromacin drug to prevent that from happening is also illegal. So he couldn't take a drug to combat the gynecomastia because he would be popped by USADA for the drug that prevents the gynecomastia. So it's a strange situation, but USADA doesn't just test for steroids and performance enhancing, doesn't just test for steroids. It tests for all performance enhancing drugs. And some of those drugs that you would use to eliminate the gynecomastia would fall under the banned substance list. So whatever he was taking that was helping him with his performance and also causing the gynecomastia on his chest, he couldn't take anything to help with that because he would be popped for those things. So he was in a kind of like an odd place because, he's trying to get an advantage. He's using something. That use is causing, an awkward look on him, which makes it very obvious that he's using something. But you can't take anything to help that because then you won't be able to compete at all. They'll fine you, they'll suspend you. So you basically just have to maneuver around it. Make some kind of excuse. Hope people don't notice, which is exactly what he was doing. The next point is, guys, let's be honest. Grown men after the age of puberty do not develop gynecomastia. Like, it doesn't just happen. You don't just wake up one day and you get gyno. Like, something has to cause it. Like, it happens in children, like they're going through puberty because of the hormone influxes and all that stuff. But once you're past puberty, which obviously he's 30 years old, way past puberty, those things don't happen. You don't just start gaining gynecomastia like just randomly during your camp, by the way. Oh yeah, let's not forget that. He somehow ended up getting gynecomastia during a camp for the event that he was going to be in. All of a sudden, right? Didn't get it during training when he didn't have like a fight coming up. But as soon as he has a fight coming up, all of a sudden he has gynecomastia now. I wonder why. Could it be that he actually started using something to help with his performance? Do you think that the guy that is making millions of dollars, that is considered the best middleweight in the world, has an incentive to maybe take something to help keep him at that level? Did you hear the trash talking that was going on between him and Paulo? Do you think maybe he has a little bit of an incentive? Have you seen Paulo Costa? The guy is jacked. He's built. Do you think maybe Israel was a little intimidated? Maybe wanted to put on a little bit of mass, get a little bit of more power? You think that might have played a part in that he wanted to, somehow get an advantage? I mean, it stands to reason, right? If you were in that position, you'd probably push to do something like that too. By the way, most of these people are taking performance enhancing drugs. So Israel is not in his, like, alone in this, right? So, however, I mean, he's the only one that looks that bad and looks that obvious. I've never seen anything like this. So again, grown men do not get gynecomastia just like that, like just out of the blue. There's a stimulus to that. The stimulus is drug use. So performance enhancing drug use. So the next point is he went on Ariel Helwani, and the point that I'm going to be talking about is how he denied the gynecomastia, but it was really strange, right? Like so at the press conference after the fight, somebody asked him. He's like, "Well, there was comments made about your chest," and he said, "Oh, why are you looking at my titties?" That was the comment, and then he went on to the next question. Didn't address it. Didn't say anything about it. Just kind of went on to the next thing. Okay. Right there, that tells you something ain't right. Like, why didn't you address it? If it's a pec tear, which, by the way, can't be a pec tear. Pec tears don't look like that. Your breast doesn't hang down to your belly button when you have a pec tear. That doesn't happen. So if it was, some people were saying, oh, well, maybe he got injured, like he got punched in the same place. Who here has been punched? Have you been punched? I've been punched. I've been in some combat sports. Even if you haven't been in combat sports and you're a kid, people hit you, you hit other people. How many times have you seen on yourself or someone else, somebody get hit and their breast just falls down? It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So that's just complete, utter, nonsense. So he goes on Ariel Helwani's show on ESPN. And immediately he's like, okay, let's talk about the breast, right? So post-fight, he wanted to avoid it. Now, a week or two later, he goes on Ariel Helwani's show. Now he wants to talk about it. So obviously, between that time, he's done some thinking. His press team or whatever, told him what to say. And what was interesting was they didn't really do a good job. Because I'm expecting him to really address, like, okay, what's going on? I know he's not going to say that he's using PEDs, but I would imagine there'd be some kind of, fallback story, right? So he goes on there and he says, yeah, it just started growing. Just one day, it just started growing. Huh? Yeah, just one day. I was laying in bed and it just started growing. I noticed it. What? Your breast just started growing all of a sudden? So the week that he had to think about what to say, it didn't make any sense. So he could have came up with something better. I mean, he could have said that, hey, might as well say you had a pec tear, right? I mean, we know that's not true, but hey, say something, right? Say something to give us, give us something that like an alibi of some sort, right? No, just started growing. What? Well, we know it started growing. It's obviously there, right? Why did it start growing? Oh, I don't know. It just started growing. Oh, okay. Well, I know why. Because you were using drugs, PEDs. That's why it started growing all of a sudden during your camp for the biggest fight of your life. Yeah. So the other point is a lot of people bring up the fact that it's only on one breast. They think for some reason there's this false narrative out there perpetuated by a few podcasters. Brendan Schaub was one of them. He mentioned that, oh, well, you can't have gynecomastia in one breast. Absolutely false. This is the same man, Brandon Schaub, that said that COVID is not a real thing. We should just get back to business. Everybody's going to be okay. And we're reaching like 1 million deaths in COVID. So consider the source whenever you listen to something. Gynecomastia comes unilaterally and bilaterally. So you can get them in both breasts. You can get them in one breast. It's there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens, right? So if you into bodybuilding and you've seen bodybuilders and you watch bodybuilding shows, you know that it can happen in one breast. It happens a lot just in one breast. If you're seeing movies and you see actors all of a sudden get jacked for a movie role, sometimes you'll see that too in one breast, gynecomastia. Obviously PED is there too, but that's what happens, right? So I think the difference was that Israel's was so bad that it was just undeniable. Like people couldn't turn away from it. Like all you were just staring at it. Like it was ridiculous. So, the whole, oh, it's only in one breast is complete nonsense. Do your research before saying stuff like that. It's not exclusively in two breasts. It can be in one breast as well. It happens all the time. And I know that there's some doctors that made YouTube videos that were saying, oh, well, it needs to be done in two breasts, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. Where did you get your degree? Where did you get your degree? And if you don't know, then all you have to do is look it up. Part of being a doctor is not just having the credentials, but being able to research. There's new articles coming out all the time. Doctors are supposed to keep up with those, right? So you know how to research. Just research. But no, that they're not going to do that. So they're just going to put out some false information and you're going to believe it because you're not going to do your research either. Trust me, it happens in one breast all the time. So it's completely nonsense. Well, we don't know exactly what he took, but it's safe to say that he took something that was fast acting, something that didn't have a long ester or no ester at all. So probably like something like testosterone suspension, which gets in and gets out very quickly, like within a couple of days. So, and it goes to reason that he would have terrible gynecomastia on something like that, because the way you get gynecomastia is estrogen goes through the roof, right? Prolactin, estrogen goes through the roof. Well, the way that happens is when you take testosterone, it raises, your body naturally tries to compensate its hormones. So you raise testosterone, your body naturally compensates with estrogen to try to equal or have a certain ratio, right? So when you raise testosterone so high, estrogen then follows. And what happens is that when estrogen follows, it gives side effects. Again, normally people would take other drugs to combat the estrogen. He couldn't do that because of USADA. He would get popped for those drugs because those drugs do last. With that estrogen aromatizing and raising like that, he got terrible gynecomastia unilaterally. So we don't know what he took, but guaranteed it was a short S or something that got in and got out very fast. He obviously looked bigger. He looked very strong. And again, incentive when you're fighting for your wealth, your fame, you're fighting a guy who most people think is a beast physically, there's a lot of incentive to take performance enhancing drugs. You think Serena Williams is all natural? I doubt it. Does she take steroids? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of other things than steroids out there that are considered performance enhancing. That's probably what we're looking at as far as what he took. Now, most people will say, hey, USADA, they're testing everybody. No way people are getting away with things. No way people are getting away with it, with taking performance enhancing drugs, right? USADA's popping everybody. Everybody's getting it. Let's think about that. Lance Armstrong was tested thousands of times. And do you know how he got popped for steroids? Or not steroids, for performance-enhancing drugs? People ratted him out. So he never failed the drug. All those thousands and thousands of times that he was tested, that he won those Tour de France's, all those things, he never once was popped by whatever organization was testing him. I think it was USADA, it might have been some other organization, but whatever the case may be, they never once were able to catch him. Because a lot of times these steroid tests or these performance-enhancing drug tests are not performance-enhancing drug tests. They're IQ tests. If you're smart enough, you can beat them, which is how Lance Armstrong did it, which is how all these other competitors do it. Short ester, in and out of your system. And then you might say, oh, well, but they're randomly coming. They're randomly just showing up and testing you. Paulo Costa put out a video of him being tested. How could Paulo Costa video that? How did he know that they were coming? How did he have a camera crew set up there to video him being tested? It's supposed to be random, right? Do you really think it's random? Do you really think they wake him up in the middle of the night? No. They obviously give him a heads up. Because you do not set up a camera crew to video record yourself being tested for USADA unless you knew they were coming. And if you know they're coming, then, you can beat that very easily. Plus, do you really think the biggest fight in UFC, one of the biggest fights in UFC history, who broke the stare down, broke all kinds of records and things of that nature. Do you really think the UFC wants one of them to be popped for steroids or for performance enhancing? I need to stop saying steroids. Performance enhancing drugs. Do you really think the UFC wants that? Do you really think that that they want to lose all that money, all that hype, one of their stars being sidelined by that? Of course not. Look what they did with John Jones. He was popped and somehow they were able to bring him back. There are people that they don't want to lose. And some people get sacrificed, like Josh Barnett, and others, get pulled up. Paulo and Israel were not getting popped unless they were just going to be dumb. And by dumb, I mean doing something so much that you're getting that bad of gynecomastia on your right breast. Now, was he popped by USADA? No, he wasn't. But he was popped by the court of public opinion. Now we all know for a fact, if you didn't know, if you suspected before, if you were not like me, who is very cynical and believes that all athletes use performance-enhancing drugs, but let's say you thought that maybe some people did. Maybe you thought that because he's thin, which, by the way, he's not that thin, but because he's thin, you think he wasn't using performance-enhancing drugs. Well, now you know for sure that he is. Guys, check out some more videos by me. This is a new show that I'm starting, so there's going to be more videos discussing different events like this coming up in the future. Take care.